Hashem Daf Mem Het. Let's see. The Gemara says, let's go over the end of the Gemara. The Gemara said on the bottom of Daf Mem Zayin Amud Bet, Ibaya Lahu, we had a question. Gefet shel zetim tenan. Are we talking about gefet of zetim? And the Mishnah says you can't be tomen in gefet. Does it mean gefet of zetin? Aval desum sumin shapir dami. But sesame paste, sesame residue is okay. Or dilma, or maybe desum sumin tenan. Maybe we're talking about even sesame residue, which doesn't heat up as much. V'kol sheken de zetim. And certainly we're talking about olive residue, which is hotter. Tashema da amar bi zera mishum had be Rabbi Anai. Kupa shetamamba. If you're insulated in a kupa, asur lahaniha al gefet shel zetim. You're not allowed to leave it on top of a pile of gefet shel zetim. So I'm not insulating it in the gefet shel zetim. I have a pot. I put it in a box surrounded with feathers, let's say. And then I put that box of feathers on top of my gefet shel zetim. So it's getting the heat up from the gefet shel zetim. Asula nihal gefet shel zetim, because that l'chaora the pshat is that we consider it all one big hatmana, right? The feathers is a hatmana b'davar she'enu mosif aval, but because heat is entering that system from the bottom, coming up, so now it's a hatmana b'davar mosif aval.
Calling it hatmana
even though it's directly, yes. That's l'chaora that you have a better pshat, Jimmy. L'chaora that in the end, anytime I pipe heat into the thing that it's mutmambo, that's considered a hatmana b'davar mosif aval. All right. So you see, shma mina. Is there heat in the feathers? There's heat in the feathers. Shma mina. Shel zetim tenan. You see, only olives. Why they specify gefet shel zetim? Says Gemara le'olam emelecha le'anyan atmana desumsumi nami asur. If you're going to be matmin in it directly, then even sesame is asur. Le'inyan asu kehavla. But if you want the heat to go up into something else, the zetim maske havla, the sumsumin lo maske havla. Only zetim gives heat up. Sumsumin is not hot enough to give heat into something above it. It's not enough heat there. It will get dispersed, and therefore it's mutar. But if you want to put it into gefet shel sumsumin, it's asur. The Gemara says, look in Tosfot. The zetim maske havla. Mikan yesh le'esor laniach gehalim tachat kedera. Afilu yiten alehem efer. Let's say I want to insulate my pot, so I'll take gehalim. I'll put efer on top. Now it's garuf katum. It's not giving so much heat, so there's no problem of shehiyah, right? And lehatmin kedera alehem. So I'll take a pot, I'll put it in a box, I'll wrap it with quilts in the box. Now it's mutman. Then I put it on top of a kira girufa or ketuma, which is giving up heat. L'chaora, it's the same thing. Once heat is going into the blanket, right? So now it's a hatmana b'davar mosif haval, right? The blanket, it's the same. The blanket is now getting heat from the oven underneath. So
on the same item.
Correct. Yeah. Why not?
Shehiyah is more direct. The heat is directly coming.
You're allowed to be masheh on top of an oven. You're not allowed to be matmin b'davar mosif haval. Adraba. Whoa. By the way, in the beginning of Perek Kira, when we talk about shehiyah on top of a kira ketuma, so the mefarshim all say. Rashi says the Perek's talking about hatmana. The mefarshim all say no. So it's not talking about hatmana. And not only that, they say that if the pot is touching the coals, it's asur, because that's called hatmana mitzad echad. That's asur. So what are we talking about? It's talking you have a little tripod that's holding the pot on top of the coals. But if it's touching the coals, it's already hatmana. Now over here you have different. Over here you made a hatmana and you put it on top of the kira girufa. So now heat is going into your hatmana. Says Tosfot l'chaora from this Gemara, it seems like that's asur. Again, מכאן יש לאסור להניח גחלים תחת הגדרה. אפילו ייתן עליהם אפר, אין להטמין גדרה להם. שהרי הגחלים מעלים הבל למעלה כמו גפת של זיתים. So l'chaura, let's say I want to put food in this warmer thing, yeah? And I wrap it with what's it called? And I wrap it, maybe it should be asur, because it's atmana, b'davar mosif aval. V'yesh tema, he'ach anu matminim al kirot shelanu shekurim astra, ואף על פי שגורפין אותו הוא מוסיף אבל כמו גפת של זיתים. He says, our kira, we call it an astra. They used to put a pot on top of it, make a hatmana, and it would keep giving heat into the pot. L'chaura, it's the same as the gifet shel zitim. Ve'omeri, sheyesh liten ta'am l'kayem ha'minhag. We can give a reason to differentiate. Degabe gifet ikal lemecha shemi yatmin kula betocha. Aval b'kirot shelanu, lo shayich lemecha shachi. The Re says there's a good reason to be mekayem the minhag. By gefet, you could make hatmana in the gefet. So if I let you put the box on top of the gefet and heat's coming in, next week you put it directly in. So it's not the reason it's not really like I told you, Jimmy, that because heat is going into your hatmana memela, it's considered davar mosif aval. Be'etzem your hatmana is the davar she'enu mosif aval. Heat's coming in from the outside. Heat's coming in from the outside. But since it's on top, it's a hatmana, directly touching something that you could be matbinin, which is gefet, I have to be gozer. Over here, you put your pot on top of an oven. You can't make hatmana in this oven. I don't have to be gozer. No. What's the hatmana? It's mutman kulo b'davar she'enu mosif aval. No, it's not touching the astra. It's just on top of the astra or whatever. Could be. It's another question. Is atmana b'davar mosif aval if it's a flat item? You put the pot on the blech. Maybe that's atmana tzad echad. Question. Everybody does it. You put a pot on the plata. Atmana tzad echad. So some say it has to at least come up a little bit. Some say this sivara. It's not a davar she'efshar latmin bo. Right? He says similarly, this is all the raid in the whole kira. You look in here, you look in the Rosh, they all talk about these cases. They make a big ditch, they put bricks around it. Bricks are good because they hold heat. They heat it up well. Then they sweep out the coals. And then they put the pot inside of it. So is that considered hatmana? Sure. Those rocks are hot, they're staying hot for the whole Shabbat. Sure. Ceramic things, they stay hot for a long time. V'lo damya lematmin b'davar mosif hevel. Delo asru ela keshematmin umadbik saviv ha'kedera dumya deremetz. And first of all, every davar mosif aval is asur. Why? Gezerah atu remetz. Hatmana beremetz, it's touching it, it's hugging it, it's all around it. Over here, there's space. That's not dumya hatmana beremetz. So it's not asur. So at this point, Tosfot is not sure, because even though the rocks are giving out, they're losing heat, but right now they're very hot. Maybe that's called atmana b'davar mosif aval. So he says, no, it's not atmana because it's not touching. It's not what? It's not dumya teremetz. Aval tanur or hafira sheyesh avir ben hadefanot lekedera en leesor yoter mehasha'a afal pi shekol hakedera betoch hatanur. Now that's what I say is by the crackpots, because to my investigation on the crackpots that I've had, there's always space between the wall of the pot and the wall of the thing. It's never touching. Now, there's a small amount of space. It's less than 3 tefachim, or you want to say lavud.
That's not dumya teremetz.
It's not dumya teremetz. In emetz it touches. Leave me alone. So in Rabbi Ribiat's book, he seems to imply that the space is insignificant. Who made such a klal about a significant space? I don't hear the whole ta'ana against the crock pots. Lo shomeya. There is a ma'ala to the flat ones, maybe ligabe hazara, because to put it back inside the deep crock pots, maybe is tocho. We said tocho is asur. And the other one is flat, it's not tocho. That could be a benefit to having the flat type crock pot. But ligabe hatmana, I don't hear it. Then he says another thing. Then Tosfot says that what? The whole thing started this Tishu B'Av, but not from anybody that I'm interested in reading. I mean, the thing started from Rabbi Shlomo Zalman on his deathbed. He didn't write anything. After that, I don't have too many people. Chamovadia doesn't write about it. I don't know. Young Avrechim writing. Oh, it's interesting, but it's not Koveya, not major guys. What? No, in Israel they didn't have crock pots. Over here we were using crock pots for a long time. All the Gedolim that we had in America, and we had great Gedolim, they saw them. Nobody made a ruckus about it. If a crock pot was Asur, Rav Moshe wouldn't have said something? Rav Aaron wouldn't have said something? Whatever it was, I don't know. Nobody said anything. Until Rav Shlomo Zalman, they had to take the crock pot to him to show it to him. Yani, Rav Moshe, I'm sure he saw many crock pots. Rav Shlomo Zalman, they had to take it to his house to show it to him. Wasn't something he was familiar with. ורבנו ברוך פירש שיש לחלק בין תוספת הבל דגפת לתוספת הבל דקירה שלנו. לפי שהחירה אין חומה אלא מחמת האש, ולעולם מתקרר והולך. The kira is losing heat. אבל הגפת מוסיף הבל מעצמו. The gefet gives its own heat. That's the Tosfot. If you have a chance, open up the Rosh and read what he says. There's a lot of interesting things. Let's go further. The Gemara says, Rabba v'Rabbi Zera ikal'u leberesh gluta. So Rabba and Rabbi Zera came to the Resh Geluta's house. That was always fun, good opportunity to see the Resh Geluta's servants doing the wrong thing. Hazyuhu lahahu avda. They saw a servant of the Resh Geluta. Da'anach kuza demaya apuma de kumkema. That he put a jug of water on top of the kumkum. Right? The kumkum is the pot of hot water. And this guy took some sort of another thing of cold water and he put it on top. Naz he Rabba. Rabba yelled at him. Amar le Rabbi Zera, ma'ishna mi meham al gabe meham? What's the difference between meham al gabe meham that we do? Amar le, he told him, hatam ukume kamukim, hacha olude kamolid. Over there, you're just keeping it hot. Over here, you're actually putting heat into it. Rashi. Ma'ishna mi meham, apuma de kumkema, meham shel hamin. Ve'akuza aita mil'at sonem was full of cold water. Nazhe ga'arbo yelled at him. Ma'ishna mi meham al gabe meham de tanya bebraita besof perkin de shari. So Rashi is claiming he's asking him from a braita. So he says, no, hata mokum mokim shameham elyon gam bo yesh ma'im hamim. Ve'atachton eno elo ma'amid chomo shelo yafig. But to actually inject heat into it is asur. Look in Tosfot. Let's see. Ma'ishna mi meham al gabe meham. Kasheleri. Rashi says you're asking from the Braita later. The Braita gufa de shari meham al gabe meham besof perkin katani be'edye v'lo b'shvil shi'hamu el b'shvil shi'u mishumarin. If he's asking from the Braita, then he should have known the answer. The Braita says lo b'shvil shi'hamu. Well, that's exactly the same answer. So what did he say that for? Ve'omeri de Braita lo shmiali. He never heard the Braita. So what's he asking from? Right? V'lo mikoach braita parich elo mima'asim b'chol yom shonri mecham al gabe mecham. He's asking you, Rabbi, they do that in your house. We do it in my house. Why is this different? Tema. You ready, Jimmy? Tema. The hechi dami, what are we talking about? Iyad soledet bo hechi ave ba'ile mishre. If it's going to become yad soledet bo, what was Rabbi Zera's question? Afal pishim evashel. Milo yada. What did he say? He thought that toldot ta'ur, because it's not on the fire, it's not going to be asur. Milo yada de toldot ta'ur ke'ur dami. Did he not know that toldot ta'ur is like the fire? Tetnan en odnim betza betza de meham. Ve'amar im gilgil hayav hata. Vetnan nami meham shipina lo yiten letochot zonen. So He should have known that. V'ila havshir, if he's doing it in order to get, what's it called? In order to become, to take out the chill. Hechi masik da asur. Why should he think it's asur? V'hatanya beperkira noten adam kitom shel mayim keneged hamedura lo b'shvil she'ham el b'shvil she'tafik zinatan. So if you're making it hot, I don't see why it should be mutar. If you're keeping it cool, it's just taking out the chill. I don't know why it should be asur. V'haynu hefsher kedemuchach sugya dahata. V'Rav Yehuda nami kamaratam echad mayim ve'echad shemen yatzoled bo asur en yatzoled bo mutar. Ve'en lechalek, and don't tell me the gabe medura yizayeh shelo yivashel kiven shu etzel ha'esh. When you're putting it by the fireplace, you know the fireplace is serious. If I leave it there too long, it's going to cook. So I'll pull it away. I'll be careful. Right? Aval hacha afilu en yatzoled bo asur. You're not allowed to make even not yatzoled bo. Why? Maybe you'll come to make a mistake. And leave it till it gets cooked. Why? Because it's not near fire. You're not so nervous. You're not worried. Near fire, yeah. Be careful. It's okay. The guy's nervous. He's on top of it. He puts it on top of this thing. He's gonna go learn his daf yomi. He'll come back 3 hours later. He'll talk to someone else. He'll be cooked already. We don't know what it is. We don't. How come over there? No, we don't. We're talking. What's the problem? If it could get the yatzoled bo, why is it mutar? L'chaora, by the case over there, when you put in keneged, could get the yatzoled bo. Why is it mutar? So you'll say no, because he'll be careful. He sees fire. Over here, he's putting it on top of the bar. Could also get the yatzoled bo, but since he's not going to be careful because he doesn't think it's serious, he's going to let it cook. He says you can't say that. It definitely could cook. That's what we're assuming now. Da'aga b'meham sharinan letel letocho mayim merubim kedei lavshiran. By meham, we don't say, we let you put a lot of water, and we don't say, it's not fire, maybe you'll put a little water. We don't say that. We spoke about this when we learned it in Kira. Tosafot is of the opinion that in order to put kedera keneged medura, it has to be far enough that it can never come to yatzoled bo. And the difference over here is that it was on top of the pot and it could have cut to yatzoled bo. Doesn't make a difference. Esh, not esh, this, that, the other thing. Only makes one difference. Could it come to yatzoled bo or not? When you're putting it samuch lemedora, you're putting it where it cannot come to yatzoled bo. Not like Rashi. Rashi says it could. And over here, I'm putting it where it cannot come to yatzoled bo, and that's why it's asur. That's the sugya, and l'maaseh halacha l'maaseh is like Tosfot. Amalei Rabbi Zera, so we saw that next. Now they have another story. Hadar Hazye, the next part of this story, he saw, I don't know if it's the same Eved or another guy, the paras das tedur apuma de Kuba. Rashi, das tudar sudar shel rosh is like one of the. I thought it was like the Arafat type thing, the little the thing the Arabs wear, the Palestinians.
Arafat scarf.
Right, that's scarf. Turban. Okay, das tudar. You're gonna ask ArtScroll about Arab items, right? The paras das tudar apume de Kuba. They put it on the top of the jug. Rashi Kuba kankan. It's a jug of water. Va'anach natla ilave. Right? What's a natla? That's why we say al netilat yadayim, because of the natla. Because of the cup that you make it with. Rashi says keli shavim bo yain. It's a keli that you draw wine with, or mayim min akuba. Very good. Nazhe Rabbah. Rabbah yelled at him too. Amal Rabbi Zera amai. Why'd you yell at him? Amalei hashta hazit. He says, just wait. Lesov haziyeh dekam ma'atzarle. He saw the thing got wet. He took his headscarf. He squeezed it out, and then he put it back on. Amarle, I hope he didn't squeeze it back out into. Ma'ishnami frunka. Why is this different than a frunka? Rashi. The frunka they put, that's the regular cover. Amarle hatam lo kapidale. It's made for that, so he's not makpid if it gets wet. Haga kapidi lave. Over here, doesn't want to wear a dripping kafiyeh or turban, depending if you. which way you believe. Well, period. End of the story. No, not that. He's not makpid on it. Because the kafir, you don't want it wet. The other thing is made to be there. V'lo betevin. You're not allowed to insulate with tevin. Now we can go back to muktzeh. Ba'amineh Rav Ada bar matna me'abayim. Mochin. So now tevin, you're only not allowed to use when it's wet. When it's dry, it's okay, right? That's what it said in the Mishnah before. Ba'amineh Rav Ada bar matna me'abayim. Mochin. Shetamam bahem ma'u letaltelam b'Shabbat. Mochin is, let's see. Rashi. Enan ela la'asod mehem levedin. It's little pieces of fabric. You have them set aside to make shekorin felter. Making felt. My felt is glued fibers together. You don't weave it. You don't spin it. You just glue the fibers together. Felter. Umuktzin hen. Very good. That's very good zustellt, as we say. Oh yeah. Umuktzin hen limlacha. So the felt, this muchin is set aside to be made into felt. Ve'asu letaltelan. Re'elu shetamam baim. So this guy, he was matmin in muchin. Mi amrin, and do we say yihadan latmana? He set it aside vatmana, and therefore ika torat keli alehen umutal letaltelan b'Shabbat. Although there's still raw material and the muktzeh.
Raw material is nothing. It's not a keli.
It's not a keli. No. Now, sometimes you could say that some raw material. This what. So, if it doesn't have a torat keli, l'chaora it needs yichud. There's a couple of ways to look at it. Either because it doesn't have a torat keli, it needs yichud, because rocks need yichud. Rocks also have a purpose, but in general they don't have that. Or you say this stuff because it's for business. It's like chisaron kis. I'm makpid on it. I don't touch my felt. I don't touch my muchin. I gotta make felt.
Or maybe you could say that when it's on the roll, but when it's already cut off the roll.
No roll, Zud. It's not felt. No, it's not. This is the raw materials. This is they take recycled fibers and they make what's it called or whatever it is. So this guy has this stuff ready to be made into felt.
It's raw.
It's raw. So he said, let's see.
Wait, so material would be a material that's already made.
Anything. I don't know that. I know that it's a keli. No, that's omed for tefirah. It's probably muktzeh. It's probably chisaron kis. Guy, you go into the fabric store and they have those big bolts of fabric. It's probably muktzeh mechama chisaron kis. I'm not sure then.
And she has a piece of material in the house.
Could be it's muktzeh. Could be it's not.
It has to be hard for something.
So you could use it as a blanket. You could use it as a shawl. You could use it as I don't know, material. It doesn't have a shem keli.
No, it depends. If it's big enough, if you use it for things, it's probably okay. But that's not a keli.
That's not a keli just because you're using it for.
Probably you have to have
makeshift keli is called a keli. Like I use it for that purpose.
I don't know how it works over there. If you have to be miyached every piece that's chazi for a patch, do you have to be miyached or not? I'm not sure. We'll see later. There's. When the Gemara says that all the different kelim, there's if you got nikev like this, chazi for that, nikev like this, chazi for that. Rashi also is with yichud. Only with yichud. But like the truth is, that's legabe tumah, legabe Shabbat. The klal seems to be anything that could be miyuhad. Legabe tumah is not muktzeh even without yichud. I don't know. I never thought about the fabric thing. It didn't happen to us, so I never thought about it. Let's see. So the Gemara says, Amalei Abaye. So Abaye says. Well, because the guy doesn't have any teven around his house this week, you think he's going to set aside a kupa of muchin to use all the time? Was he crazy? This week he used it, but he's not miyahedet. If he's not miyahedet, so for one time it doesn't become unmuktzeh, it stays muktzeh. So that's Abaye's answer. Leima misayeh alei. Let's say we have a proof to Abaye from this beraita or from this Mishnah. Tomnim begizet semer. You could be tomen in gizet. Gizet semer is like long tongues of, or shearings of wool. Ubetzifet semer. Rashi says gizet semer kemot shenigzezu. The way they came off the sheep. You took the clippers, today it comes off in one. It's not a sheet. It's like one clump. The shape of the sheep, minus the body. Right? Kemot shenigzezu. Tzifet semer. לאחר שנפוצו ושטחו כמין מחצלו משותחים. It's like a flat piece of tzemir after you combed it out. ובלשונות של ארגמן. And after you dye them, לאחר שצבעם וסורקים אותם, after you dye it and you comb it, כאין לשונot. It's like a long tongue. לטבותם, ready to be woven, ready to be spun. ובמוחין, and with mochin, here you have the mochin. ואין מטלטלין אותן, and you can't make the tiltul. So when it says ואין מטלטלין אותן, לכאורה means even after you made the hatmana, אין מטלטלין אותן. What's the thing? טומנים בגיזת צמר, ובציפת צמר, ובלשונות של ארגמן, ובמוחין. All these are important things. ואין מטלטלין אותם. Mashma, even if you made the hatmana, אין מטלטלים אותם, because just because you made the hatmana, you weren't miyached אותם. Inside this thing, I still can't move them. Why? Because I wasn't.
How can you do the pot? You can touch them, but you can't move them.
We'll see later. There's a whole system how you get the pot out. Good? ואין מטלטלין אותם. There's a whole problem with the thing. If you look in the Mishnah later says, son,
the pot and remove. That's 2 minutes up.
טומנים בשלחין ומטלטלין אותם. בגיזת צמר ואין מטלטלין אותם. כיצד הוא עושה? נוטל את הכיסוי והם נופלות. טלטול מן הצד, whatever it is, right? נוטל את הכיסוי והן נופלות. So now, over here, top. So you see over there, even after you matmin bo, it's still muktzeh. Says the Gemara. So he says, no, imi shumha lo irya. That's not a raya. Hachi kama. This is what he's saying. Im lo taman bahem. If he didn't make katmana in them, im metaltalin otan. It's two separate pieces. It's not one case. It's not tomnim ve'im metaltalim ahar shetaman bahem. Tomnim bahem, that it's not mosif aval. And the separate halacha, by the way, these things are muktzeh. But if you were tamam bahem, maybe that's a yichud lahatmana and it's mutar. I'm not talking about that.
If you didn't use it for hatmana, it's muktzeh.
Right, that's all. But it doesn't mean that even after I used it for hatmana, it's muktzeh. You can't prove from there. Okay. Says the Gemara, ihachi ma'ile memra. What's the hidush? You might say that you could lean on it and it shouldn't be muktzeh. Kamash malan, that it's the person is maktzeh oto for business and it's asur. L'chaora, that's the pshat.
All these gizeh semer is because of Muhammad 7 pieces?
Yeah, l'chaora. L'chaora.
Not because it's not a keli?
Not because it's not a keli. It's chazi lemizga.
If you
Say it's not a keli, it's better.
I'm not sure. I think it's because he's makpid on it. We'll see later. There's a whole nother sugya later that's anyway that's like contradictory to this sugya.
only if you're with the Moshe, if you're going to do it for business, right?
On Nun Amud Aleph, you have a similar sugya. We'll get to that sugya and we'll try and reconcile. It's very, very complicated. There's Tosfot and there's the Ran, and this is a very rough sugya. Rav Hizda Shara lahadure udra lebesadya b'Shabbata. Rav Hizda was matir to put back udra lebesadya on Shabbat. Rashi, udra lebesadya. Lahadure lachzir muchin. Okay, we're back to muchin. Shenaflu min akar letochan. So you have a pillow. It's full of stuffing. The stuffing fell out. He says you can stuff it back in.
The can, what's the problem? The can, patish, what's the problem?
No. Says the Gemara. Let's see. Aiti ve Rav Hanan bar Rav Chizda le Rav Chizda. So Rav Hanan, I guess it's his son, asked Rav Chizda. Matirim bet hatzavar b'Shabbat. You're allowed to untie a neckline on Shabbat. Rashi. Matirim bet hatzavar shederech hakovsin lekoshran. So the bet hatzavar is like the hole they cut in the tzitzit. Right? So the guy washing it didn't want it to get rip and get bigger, so he would put a couple of stitches in. But that was a temporary stitch. It's only there for when you're washing it. So he's allowed to open that on Shabbat. Matirin bet hatzavar b'Shabbat. Avalo potchim, but you can't cut open a new hole. Ve'en notnim et hamochin, and you can't put the stuffing lo letoch hakar v'lo letoch hakesad b'yom tov. Ve'en tzarich lomar b'Shabbat. Beferush, you're not allowed to stuff it. Rashi says nothing. So the Gemara says, Lo kashya ha behadete ha ba'atike. Rashi behadete shelo hayu me'olam letocho asur tahashta avid lemana. If it's a new one, it never had it inside, it's asur because now you're making it into a keli. Be'atike, in old ones, lachaziro lekar zeh shenafal mimenu, then it's mutar. Get a Rambam. So according to Rambam Zimanim, according to Rashi, it seems like the isur is
No, not mixing up. I can't kill it. This keli was there, and you just mix it.
Not with the can. They said you can put it back in the original one. It's a new one.
I can't kill it.
You want it.
Why no?
Rashi is learning it's mitaken keli. Now you made it into a pillow. Before this it was nothing. Now it's a pillow. Masha'enken, once it was already a pillow, I'm just in, out, not a big deal.
This is mitaken keli. The first one is mitaken keli.
The first time you do it, it's mitaken keli. After it's a keli, it's not mitaken keli. It's usage. It's usage. The Rambam seems to learn it differently. Actually, it's not even here. Where? Kavbet. Which perek? Kavbet, Chav Gimel. So the Rambam has a different shot. The Rambam seems to learn it's a gezerah. Maybe you're going to sew. Here. Hatofer me'avot melachot. Lefikach asur lemalot hakar ve'akesat ha'hadashim b'mochin gezerah shema yitfor. Aval mochin shenashru min hakar u'min hakesat machazirin otam b'Shabbat. He doesn't think it's makem patish. Gezerah shema yitfor.
The muchin itself is not muktzah. Now that it's out of the pillow, what's the only use of the muchin is when it's in the pillow. Now that it's out of the pillow, I don't need it for anything.
It's miyuchad to be part of the pillow. I don't know.
Yeah, but right now it's outside of the pillow. You want to fix it after Shabbat or whatever, but
Kanere, it's part of a keli.
part of the keli, but now that it has no use.
As use, you can put it back in the keli. Not only that, we say if you're planning on putting it back after Shabbat by the button, we said it's mutar. We have that thing in kol hakelim.
It makes a difference if the things went out before Shabbat or in Shabbat?
I don't think it makes a difference. Let's go. Ve'en tzarich lomar biyom tov. Amar Rav Yehuda, Amar Rav. Tosfot learns it like Rashi, and Tosfot says, Ha behadete ha be'atike omer ri shemnatku choteh hasarbal. If the strings came out of your whatever type of clothing he's talking about. Emanekev rachav yachol achnisam belo torach shari kivan de'atike. If you want to put back in the string, it's okay because it's old.
What does he add to Torah?
Oh, because if it's not torach, it's makem patish.
If it is Torah,
If it is torach, yeah. ובלבד שיתנאים בעניין זה שלא יש לחוש מיתקע. It has to be in a way that there's no problem. Maybe he's going to stuck it in, or maybe he's going to tie it in, or something. בעניין שהיו רגילים לתקוע ולקשור, if you're going to tie it in, נראה דאסורים להחזיר כדאסרינם בריש כל הכלים. החזרת שדה תיבה ומגדל גזירה שמיתקע. So to put the thing back through your sweatpants is for sure asur, right? Because that's Torah. Right? It's the worst. Okay. Amar Rav Yehuda, Amar Rav. Hapoteach bet hatzavar b'Shabbat chayav chatat. If you cut open a neckline on Shabbat, you chayav chatat. Mat kifla Rav Kahana. Ma ben zule megufat chavit. How come when you have a megufat chavit, when you have the top of the barrel, you'll let it chop the whole thing off and make an opening. And over here, now let it chop open the bet hatzavar to make an opening. Amar le Rava, ze hibur v'ze eno hibur. Says the neckline is part of the beged. You're cutting in the beged itself. That's a hibur. It's asur. Masha'enken the migufa, you add it on after. It's not an essential part of the beged. Part of the chavit. Look at Rashi. Ma ben zeh lemigufa chavit. Tetanya beperek chavit shenishbera mevi adam chavit. You can bring a barrel. Umetiz et rosha b'saif. You chop off the top with a sword. Very dramatic. Umaniha lefneha orchim. It's like in some of those Japanese restaurants when the guy comes with a knife and he makes the show. Oh, chop off the cover. Megufa ena min hachavit atzma. So no, the megufa is not from the barrel. Ve'afal pi shedevuka bo, even though it's attached, eno hashuv hibur. Sharei linatel omedet. Aval habeged kishene'erag kulo hibur. When it's woven, the whole thing is a hibur.
What is it, like a cap?
Yeah, that's the closing of the item.
What's the difference with part of the barrel? It's better if it's part of the barrel, then I'm doing kukul.
You wouldn't be allowed it.
I mean, if it was part of the barrel, it would be better. Now I'm just being Mikal kill the kill. I'm not doing
But it wasn't done to be open. Doing the second cover was done to be open.
I just killed the kill. It makes it sound like when it's separate it's better. It's worse. Huh?
When it's separate, it's worse.
Meaning the whole problem is the fact that it's separate, and now he's making it into a kill. Right?
No, you're allowed to do it because it's separate. You're allowed to open the barrel. Then you're allowed.
Cut it with a knife.
Meaning it's worse if it's the wick.
You wouldn't be allowed to open
It
it.
would be worse if it
You
was
wouldn't be
small.
allowed to open it.
If it was mouth small. Saying it's better.
You're confusing me. If it was one whole thing, you wouldn't be allowed to open it.
Toso learns it differently, but it's complex. Let's see. Tanan, we learned. Amar Rami le Rabbi Yirmiyah le Rabbi Zera. Rabbi Yirmiyah es Rabbi Zera. Tanan, we learned. Shalal shel kovsim, the stitches of the washermen that they used to stitch it together in order that it shouldn't get lost when they're washing. They used to stitch the big clothes to the small clothes. V'shal shelet shel maftechot, and a chain of keys that they put together, I guess, for the same reason. V'abeged shu tafur b'klayim, and if you have clothing that's sewn up with shadnez, then you're going to have to take it out. Rashi, devadai sofoli karali pared ze mishum misum klayim. V'chen shalal shel kovsim, sofan li pared. Afilu hach, so the Mishnah says, chibur letuma. For tumah, it's a chibur achi atchil atir, until you start taking it out. Because once you attached it, you touch one, the other one becomes tameh. Until you start taking it out. Because you have to do a ma'aseh to start taking it out. Rashi, achi atchil atir, the ma'aseh motzi miyad ma'aseh. V'kivan she'atchil atir, gali al yedeh ma'aseh, de lav had begedhu. Alma, shelo b'sha'at melacha, nami chibur. Even when you're not doing the use that you had it together for, you tied it together to wash, right? Yet, even after you finished washing, it stays a hibur. Urminu, I'll ask you a question. Makel she'asa'a yad lekordom chibur letuma b'sha'at melacha. If you have an axe, so you didn't have a handle, so you don't want to carry the axe with a handle, so you take off the axe head, you put it in your bag, you carry it. You get to a new town, you go find the big stick, you stick it in, chop, 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 right?
You take it out, you chop.
So now he says makel she'asa'a yad lekardom. Look in Rashi. He says makel shel etzim be'alma, stam a piece of wood. She'asa'o yad lekardom shelo keva'o letocho. He didn't make it the permanent one. Chibur b'sha'at melacha. It's chibur. It's considered part of the keli b'sha'at melacha. Va'afal pi de be'am pe nafshi, even though when it's by itself. Pishutek le'etz lo mekabel tumah, won't be mekabel tumah because it's just a flat piece of wood. Hacha bet yadu, it's a handle. V'net rabu yadot look called torat keli. So over there, it's only a hibur b'sha'at melacha. Why don't we say, so when you finish working, if you touch the handle, it won't be tameh. Why not? Hare, it should be tameh until I start taking it out. Says the Gemara, Amarli answered like this. Hatam b'shelo b'sha'at melacha, when you're not working, Adam asui l'zor kol ben aitzin. You don't want to leave it, you're going to throw it away, you can put it, leave. Are you happy that it stays tied? Why? The imitnifu, because if it gets dirty before you give it back to the person you're supposed to give it back to, hadar mehvar lahu, you wash it again. So that guy is not nichalei bichlal, and this guy is still nichalei. Besura matnu lahash ma'ata mishmed Rav Hizda. In Surah, the following statement they said in the name of Rav Hizda. And in Bepumpedita, they said it in the name of Rav Kahana. The Amrila and some said it Mishmed Rava. Man Tana, who's the Tana of Hamilta, the Amura Banan? This is what the rabbi said. Kol mechubarlo, hareo kemoto, Rashi. Kol mechubarlo kegon shalal shel kovsin. The Amran le'el hibur, it's connected, even though really it's not the same keli. It's a glove connected to a sock. Right? V'nitma avze shelo nag'abo atuma. So you touch the glove, the sock became tameh. V'ilav de hibur, if it wouldn't be a hibur, have it tahor. If you touch the glove, the sock would be tahor because a keli could only be mekabel tuma from an avatuma. Right? So if I touch the glove becomes the rishon. The rishon can't be metameh the sock. Ela al korchach becomes one keli. Even though it has no you, what can you do with a glove sock? Slip in your hand next to your feet. Kol mechubar lo hareu kemoto amar Yehuda amar Rav Rabbi Meiri. So Yehuda said it's Rabbi Meir. What's that? The Tanan beta pach ubeta tevalin ubeta ner. Rashi beta pach ubeta tevalin ubeta ner shebekira. Kira zu metalteleti. Umehabrim la kle heres ketanim. You have little accessories on it. This is the loaded version of the kira. You have a little pach there that you put a little shemen in if you want warm smearing oil. You have a beta tevalin to warm up the spices for you. There's a little candle on the side. I told you, this is the super deluxe kira version. Right? So they connect these little things. Beta pach shemoshivim betocho shemen lavshir. And the other things kind of are self-explanatory. Metamim b'maga ve'em metamim ba'avir. Devrei Rabbi Meir ve'Rabbi Shimon metaher. So Rabbi Meir holds, since it's connected, it's a chibur. Even though, what does this have to do with that? The ner on top of it, it's an accessory. Rashi, and it also has an unusual type of tumah. Metamim b'maga imnaf la tumah ba'aviran or la avira kira. If tumah, the kli cheres metamim me'aviro. If tumah fell into the avir of this keli or fell into the avir of the other thing, and v'naga hatumah l'shulei akira, and it actually touched the bottom, nitmeu gam elu. Then these are tameh. Lo nagu tumah l'shulei elu nitmu akira. Ve'en metamim b'tumat akira. Kelomar b'tumat avir. Shem nafal sheretz ba'avir akira v'lo naga tumah b'dofneha. If a sheretz was hanging into that sheretz was hanging into the avir of the kira. Midoraita, that's enough to make the kira tameh. And the kira does become tameh. The accessory stuff on the top won't become tameh from that. Even though they're connected. So, midoraita, there's no difference between the sheretz going in just to the avir or the sheretz going in and touching. But, midrabanan, we made it. You see clearly that these things are only connected midrabanan. And therefore, we will only metameh when the sheretz actually touches. So again, metamim b'maga if it actually touches, ve'em metamim ba'avir. Devrei Rabbi Meir, Rabbi Shimon metaher. Rabbi Shimon says it's tahor. Rashi b'maga et mi shelo nag'abo. So if you touch the kira, the pach is tahor. Shalom tuma. They call had keli ba'apei nafshe. It's separate kelim. Just connecting them doesn't do anything. Alma Rabbi Meir hibur. Rabbi Meir considers it's hibur peligi ale, and he argues on him. Bishlam al Rabbi Shimon, I understand this sivara. Kasavar lav kekira damu. I don't care how you touch it. It's two separate kelim. Just because they glue together, that's for convenience sake. El al Rabbi Meir I kekira damu. If you think it's a kira, afilu ba'avir nami litmu. So avir is a real tumah. If it's in the avir, it should be tameh. Ilav kekira damu. And if it's not like the kira, these things that are connected to it, afilu b'maga nami lo litmu. But how do you differentiate between maga and avir? Le'olam lav kekirahu. Damu. Really, it's not like a kira. V'rabananu de gazru behu. The chachamim made a gezerah. Says the Gemara, igazru behu. They made a gezerah. So be consistent. Afilu ba'avir nami litmu. Let it be tameh even men avir. Avdu behu rabanan kera ki echid lo atu lemisraf aleh truma v'kadashim. The chachamim made a heker in the way they set up the gezerah, so they won't come to burn truma v'kadashim. Not far. They specifically made it weird. So that you'll say, hey, this, Rabbi, what's the rule here? Yeah, ba'avir and ba'maga, not ba'avir. What? So yeah, it's a drabanan. Oh, must be drabanan. Okay, I won't burn the terumah yet because it's not midoraita. This terumah is tahor. I can't burn it. Says the Gemara, Tan Rabbanan. misporet shel perakim, a scissors that you could take apart. Right? You put it together and you could use it. You take it apart. You can put each blade separately. Ve'izmal shel rihitani. Rihitani is a plane, the thing that they use to smooth the wood. Right? You know what I'm talking about? So it's a big wood thing, and you put a blade in, and then as they go, it scrapes off the wood. So the blade of the rihitani. Hibur letumah ve'en hibur laza'ah. So like this, if a tumah touched one side of the scissor, the other side of the scissor becomes tahor. What is it? It's one keli. Now,
When it's together.
when it's together, it's one keli. So now it became tameh met. So I took it to the Beit HaMikdash to sprinkle haza'ah. So I sprinkled on the same side where it touched the met. Now I sprinkled on that. L'chaura, the haza'ah should count for the whole keli. I don't have to haza'ah on every inch of the keli. No, they have to sprinkle both sides. Question, very good question. Ma'anav shach, ichiburu, if it's a chibur, if it's considered one keli, afilu lahaza'ah nami, it should work even for haza'ah. Ilav chibur, if it's not a connection, afilu lutuna nami lo, it shouldn't become tameh. You can't have it both ways. Is it connected or it's not connected? If it's connected, let it be connected for tumah and for haza'ah. If it's not connected, let it not be connected, not for tumah, not for haza'ah. Amar Rabba, dvar Torah, b'sha'at melacha chibur, ben letumah, ben lahaza'ah. V'shelo b'sha'at melacha eno chibur, lo letumah, v'lo lahaza'ah. When you're cutting, so they're functioning like one, right? It's a chibur. When you're not cutting, it's two separate things because they come apart.
Connected.
Right now it's together, but it comes apart. Big deal.
No, even though it's connected, not b'sha'at
Yeah, it's nothing because to me it's the same as taking it apart, right? So that's his point. So now what's going to happen? You come to the rabbi and you tell him, Rabbi, I was cutting with my scissors and a dead mat fell on it and it touched it. So the whole thing is tameh, right? Now when you go to make the haza'ah, you think you're going to be cutting as you're making the haza'ah? No. So the rabbi tells you, I sprinkled the same side. No, it's no good. So therefore they said all the time, for tumah, I can't tell. And then you come to the rabbi, the keli was sitting in my house, it touched one side, so only that side is tameh. Next time he's cutting and something touches it, both sides is tameh. So therefore they said, on the way in, it's both tameh. On the way out, it's not a hibur. This way you can solve all the problems. Right? ושלא בשעה בין לך, אינו חיבור לא לטומאה ולא להזעה. וגזרו רבנן על טומאה, they will gozer on the טומאה שלא בשעת מלאכה. When you're not doing מלאכה, משום טומאה שבשעת מלאכה. Because of the טומאה, when you're working. ועל הזעה שבשעת מלאכה, they will gozer, if you're sprinkling it, בשעת מלאכה, משום הזעה שלא בשעת מלאכה. No, I think when you actually want to use it or using it.
While the guy's using it after sprinkle, bring it to the bedroom.
I don't care what you have to do, but if you want one to work for the other, it has to be b'sha'at melacha.
What's haza'ah b'sha'at melacha?
Sprinkle while he's cutting.
Why is cutting? No, it has to be when it's together, no?
Of course, it's the point is when it's together, it's not always a chibur. Shelo b'sha'at melacha, even together, is not a chibur. L'chaura, that's what it's saying. Tosafot asks a question. He says, by muchni, we said it's not a chibur, even when it's together. Ma yishna mi muchi? Bizman she'i neshmetet de'eno chibur. V'tzarich lechalek. Okay. Baruch Adonai le'olam. Amen ve'amen.